I want to talk about a new model that I worked on, and this model is an implementation of OpenAI. Um, so the model is still being worked on. A lot of changes. You see, there's almost 250 files. So it's a pretty busy, big model. And there's a lot of features. So I'm going to go over them one by one, and I try to be as quick as possible. So as you can see, there's 6 features. So you have an OpenAI feature, and it's enabled by dependency. There is an implementation of ChatGPT models inside the OpenAI. So this one is just provides you a way to say, to have profiles and be able to define your chat instances. So I want to enable this one first and kind of show what this one does. So this one provides you 2 things. It provides you a UI for deployments and also provides you a profile for a UI for profiles where you can add profiles, but there's nothing to add because it doesn't really have any kind of any implementations. There is data because I prepared some data for this demo, but as you can see, you can't. There's nothing for you to do here so far. So that this feature alone is not really good enough. So if I search these up, you'll see there's more features. And I want to enable this one. This one is an OpenAI implementation on Azure. So it's utilizing the Azure OpenAI services as source for the OpenAI implementation. So if I open this up or if I enable this, I can go here and now I can go to profiles and then I can add a profile and you'll see you have a source, which is OpenAI source. If you click this one, what a profile is, it allows you to kind of define what you want this chat instance to do or to be. And there's a lot of settings, as you can see. I'm not going to cover all of them, but we're going to go through a few of them. But let's just say we're going to create an instance where I can just chat with, right? Just like chatgpt.com or anything like that. So I'm going to create an instance called standard chat. I'm going to select the deployment. This is my deployment. Deployments are added through the other UI. I do not have the UI for adding deployment is not really complete for Azure, but I do have a recipe that allow you to import all your deployment that you created on your Azure account. And that's where that deployment came from, which is this one. And then profile types, we'll talk about it in a little bit. There's 3 types, but for now, I'm just going to click chat and that's it. And I'm just going to hit save. Now, if you see here, I have a new menu here. It's called standard chat that just came up, which matches this name. If I click on it, now I have a UI where I can chat with. I can type in whatever I want. OpenAI, what is OpenAI? Let's see if it works. There you go. When was it founded? Right. So you can, and each one you could copy the prompt. So this is basically it's an instance now of Chat AI. So I have a chat already implemented here now, all of using UI. However, there's limitation to this because this is basically public knowledge at this point. If I put something like, what is the weather in Las Vegas? So we get this generic response, and I did that on purpose because I want to lead into another function of OpenAI that I implemented, which is functions. So there's functions in OpenAI which allows the OpenAI model to actually call your code, and then you're able to utilize code, like call a third-party service like an API and get like a real-time weather information. So this doesn't work. I just want to kind of briefly go and show the function of how it works. So I'm going to go back to my standard chat profile. And in here, there's available function. This function, I actually prepared it really quick for the demo. It doesn't really do anything, but I'm just going to check it so I can say, hey, I want this chat to be able to use this function. And if I go back, by the way, here, there's a list of my history of all my previous chats. So now if I say, what is the weather in Las Vegas? And now I'm gonna, I get a breakpoint because okay. So before we show, so look at that. Now it comes back and actually gave me a weather. This is not a real answer. It's just some made up stuff that I had to put in my function just so it can return something. The whole reason is I want to show a little bit of the function. So if you look here, you can actually implement any function you want, just simply by either driving from this class or implement this interface. You can put the method name or the function name that you want to use, description of it, what should it do. You can define your method. You can even define the type, what should this method return. But then you have to implement this invoke method. This invoke method accepts a JSON object and returns an object. An object can be anything. It can be a string or it can be a complex object. In this case, I put a complex object just because I wanted to kind of show a little bit more than just a string. But you could easily here return a string and it will go back to the model. So I just want to put a breakpoint and then I want to put here, what about Seattle. So now you'll notice that my code, so what happened here, the OpenAI model called my function, which is something I put in code, and it provided me an arguments. And these arguments is location, Seattle, Washington, and that's it. And I'm able to cast it here. And then, well, here I could have called an API and return a real data, but in this case, I just put in junk data just so we can have some sort of function. But yeah, this is the idea behind functions, is that you're able to define a function through code, and then you're able to call that. The OpenAI model will automatically call that. So you can define the method in the code, but then you'll have to select it in the UI. So anytime you add a function to the code, you'll see it on the list here, and then it's up to you to say, I want the profile to use it or not. Because when it comes to OpenAI, adding function will increase your cost because every single time you have to send the definition of the function, and OpenAI might have to call it, and then so there's more traffic. So it's optional if you want to use it or not. So that's the functions of OpenAI function ChatGPT. So now we did this. This is all cool, but what else can we do with it? So another thing that you can do here is that you can go to widgets, design widgets, and then you can actually inject a widget on the front end. So with the OpenAI implementation, there's a content type called chat widget that you can add. And then standard chat, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to say show it always, and we're going to select the profile, which is the standard profile, the one we created. And then we're just going to hit publish. And then if I go to the front end, you'll see you have a chat button here that you can open up, and then you can ask similar, you can do the same thing. I don't know, whatever. What is OpenAI? I don't know, or something else. So anyway, so you're able to do the same chat here. You can start a new chat, you can close it, and so on and so forth. So now you have a way to add the OpenAI chat implementation into Orchard. But then what else can we do with that? So we already have an implementation of Search AI already. So now I added a way where we can integrate both the API, the OpenAI AI, with the Chat AI. So what I did to demo this a little bit more is I created a content definition here for, I just put documentation page, and really this it does nothing. What I did is I actually created a few documents here, and I copied Orchard Core documentation. So I got, whatever, copied and pasted it here, just so I can have documents. And then I went to the index here and I created a new index. I called it demo. If you edit this, I'm only saying index only document pages. So just so I can have data in my Search AI index. The reason why I did that is I want to be able to chat with OpenAI using OpenAI chat, the ChatGPT models against my own data, right? So I don't want the public knowledge. I don't want to ask it about OpenAI. I just want it to only focus on the data that I provided. So I can go in here, whoops, and I can create a new profile. And oh, well, before we do that, we have to enable another feature. I forgot. So if I go on OpenAI, there's another feature here. It's called Azure OpenAI with Azure Search. It's another feature. And if we click here to enable it, we can go back to profiles, and then we can add a new profile, and you'll see now there's another source. So before we saw this, but now you have two, so you can pick and choose which profile source you want to use. So we're going to use this. And here we're just going to say docs, whatever. We're going to call it docs. I'm going to use the same deployment. And also we're going to use, so in here you have another option. It's called index, which index you want to use because of the source. So in this case, I'm just going to say, hey, I want to select my demo index and I want to save. Now you'll see here that I have the docs chat. So if you click here, and then you can ask it, if I say, what is OpenAI? I expect no answer, but I don't know, I could be surprised here. Okay, so it made up something, but it has nothing to do with, it's a general knowledge. But if you ask it something outside the box, it wouldn't answer because it's really looking only on the content that you provided. But I can say what communication methods does Orchard Core support. And this one, the reason why you should know this, because there's information about that inside the documentation that I put. So there you go, Orchard Core supports communication, blah, 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 blah. And the reason why he knows that is because, again, I put the documentation. And if I put what is, or how to configure, and if I can type Elasticsearch, so now it's just going after the documents that I provided, and here it goes. So it tells you exactly how to do it, and it's nicely formatted, and that's it. And then if I say, what about Azure Search AI? Whoops, AI mistyped. I bet it will understand me, and it's giving me the instructions on how to do it. So the idea here is that you're able to create a chat on your own data, on your own content items that are found in here. Similarly, you could search through your conversation. You can start a new session, and same thing. If I go back here, I'm going to show you one more thing. If I click here, I click Generate Chat Summary. This is another utility, and now it's kind of taken all the conversation that I had with that and is summarizing it. And this is something called the utility, at least that's what I named it. And this is something that I created earlier for the sake of this meeting. And if you click edit, you'll see the difference. So here, I changed the type. So earlier we utilized, actually this is a template generated prompt, not utility. Earlier, we saw the chat type. This is a template generated prompt because you're able to configure it to do anything you want. So in here, I actually provided a template that that we wrote and using liquid, and then you're able to go through the data you have and just basically create a prompt, which is a dynamic prompt. Here, you're able to define your system message, whatever the description, what do you really want the system to do? And then I even have a subject. And what this does, it just allows me to, if I go back here, it just allows me to put a title in here, and then it allows me here, in this case, to summarize my entire conversation. But obviously, you can customize anything you want. Anything you put generated, the generated prompt, it will go in this menu automatically. So if you added a new profile that does something else, that you can utilize and put in here. There is one more thing that I don't have a demo for, which is a utility. A utility is something that you can, basically you can give the system description instructions, or what should it be, or what it is, and then you're able to give it like one prompt. So instead of having a chat, like a full-blown chat like we saw, you'll have a one-off, like a utility that does something. Like, for example, take this string and like reward it, or whatever, right? Or like fix it, or something like that, right? So that would be a utility. And then also here you have another option when you create a profile, that you're able to, the title, so your session here, the session has a title. So you could actually configure how you want the title to look like. So in this case, you could have it set as the first prompt. So whatever the first prompt that the user type, that would be a title. Or you can say generate a title based on the first prompt, so that it will use AI to help us generate a title for the conversation. And then, there's other, parameters that you can utilize to fine tune the AI model or limit it. There's a bunch of defaults. I tried to document as much as I can to try to make it descriptive. But that's it. And also, you can, when you have permissions, you're able to permissions. So if I go security, and then I go here, and let's say we want to edit this. I forgot what it's called. Open. Let's just search AI. Yeah. So here you have custom permission for each one of the profiles. So you can say, hey, can you query the AI profile that's called docs or not? So you can control the permissions as well. So you can show and hide it whenever you want to, because, if you don't have permission to the standard chat, maybe you don't want no one to have access to it or whatever. So you can actually do that. I think that's it. I don't know if I missed anything, but this is it.
Thank you. Are you using Microsoft Extensions AI?
Microsoft Extension AI? You mean
Yep.
the package?
Yes.
No.
You
I
should.
one time did, and I actually stopped using it because it was very buggy, and I couldn't get the same results as if I just called the API directly.
What about semantic kernel?
I never messed with it, so I did not do it. I did not use it.
So you should use Microsoft Extension AI, because it will abstract the service. So you could write it for OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, Olama, all the things you want. And then we can provide them more providers for OpenAI, even local ones using Olama and Docker images. So that would be good. And if there are bugs, just find them and they will fix it.
I'll look at it. I seen it when in the Microsoft that meeting last, was it December?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really get a chance to miss it.
The .NET conference, yeah, some demo.
Yeah,
it was shipped last month. Yeah, right. So
yeah, I didn't get a chance to mess with it.
And then you can, and the nice thing is that then you can have a local Docker image and use Olama. You don't have to pay anything for OpenAI, and you can test it And if you still prefer OpenAI, you can still use OpenAI. So it's nicer. And matches the Orchard extensibility that you have interfaces, and then you can provide different implementations. So if you enable the OpenAI module, then you have your thing with OpenAI. But if you enable the Azure OpenAI, then it will use Azure OpenAI. And all your UI is the same, or could be the same, whatever the provider is.
Yeah, I mean, I already have my interfaces around everything that I need here.
You see?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but because this is an Orchard thing, but I mean, it's. I guess I could look at that and see if I can make it.
You know better, so you will see what it does. It also supports the callbacks for your own functions. So.
Yeah, we have that too.
Well, I'm saying that you have that, but they abstracted it so it works with every provider.
Yeah, that's what I have. It should work with every implementation. But I will.
But you don't have implementations. But you don't have the implementations for all the. You don't want to do that.
No,
you want.
No. Oh, they have implementations for like common functions.
I'm not sure that not for common functions for the AI providers themselves, like OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, Olama.
Well, I mean, OpenAI has the definitions, so everybody else, like Azure, is an implementation of OpenAI.
Not really. You don't have to comply with the implementation, the API of OpenAI. Azure complies with some of it and has other methods than OpenAI has.
Yeah, I agree.
And
like the search and your good data.
And yes, the API is nice, it's the same thing, but the REST client. So yeah, there is a .NET OpenAI REST client, but there is the Microsoft Extension AI implementations that is another abstractions over the .NET OpenAI and other providers. You should look into it. You will understand. And it shouldn't be buggy because the people working on that, they are the best in the .NET team. So pretty sure it works well. I've seen some demos and I've used that. So. Cool. Other people have questions?
Yeah, I would have a couple. The first one, very cool. Is this the open sourcing of the thing you have shown at Harvest? I'm not sure how public that is.
No, this is different. Yeah, this is different. This is the OpenAI implementation. It's here.
You need workflow. So yeah, you need workflow task now. Like your utilities should be a workflow task, right? And then
use Sipka's project for that.
Well, I mean, your project is there. So you have your utilities. You just expose every utility as a workflow thing, and then
one thing about these functions, how does the system know which function to call? So, like, how does it match the question, what's the weather in Seattle, to that code that you had?
So when you make calls to the OpenAI, you're actually telling it, hey, I understand this function. So you give it a function definition. And then if it thinks that the user is asking about something that the function can handle, then it will automatically parse out the data. Like if you notice when I asked it about the weather, when I asked about the weather, what it did, it knew the location is Seattle, but it knows my function is also looking for a Seattle, for a location. So it took Seattle and sent it to my function. Now my function has the parameters it needs, and it knows that OpenAI is looking for an answer, and then it's able to process whatever logic you want, and it provides the whatever return type that you want.
Okay, I see. So this is decided by the model then.
Correct. The function is not always called. It's only called when needed. So if I ask about something other than weather, it will never call my function because, I'm not asking about weather.
Okay, I see. Another question about the custom content you have. How is that used by the model? So I guess it's not that the model is trained on that, or is it somehow further trained with that content, or is it extending the prompt, or what happens?
Well, so what happened is that you create the Azure AI, the Search AI index, right? That's what I did here. So here I created an index called a demo, right? And then I said I want to index my document pages, which is the same exact thing what we do when we do a search on the front end, right? Like Elastics, same thing. But this one, it indexes the data in such a way that the AI model is able to actually understand it and search through it using ChatGPT. So when I create the profile here, this profile, I was able to say, hey, go ahead and use only the demo index. So in this case, you see, say select index. So I selected my index, my demo index, and now it's searching against that data and that data only. So it has like a common knowledge meaning like not public information, meaning like it knows how to behave, how to talk to you, like how to chat. So it knows that. So if you ask a question, it'll understand it, but it will only limit its response based on the data that's in my index. So that's how it it works. Does that make sense?
So does the model actually search via Azure AI Search?
Yes.
Okay, I see. So basically you can have a question answer way of querying the search index that you can otherwise also query with traditional search queries.
It's kind of similar to the functions, but instead of calling a function, it's doing a search, I guess.
Kind of. It's just you're giving it your data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to use more liquid.
Yeah. I used liquid. Look.
But you use this for the template, but you should use it for the prompts, because
Yeah.
the main thing with OpenAI models is that like the behavior, how it behaves from the questions, from the chats, is usually based on prompts, you name them, but these are templates which can include other micro templates to explain how to format things, how to grab things. Like I know how it works in Copilot, and all the prompts, they are just liquid templates that just explain how to understand the data and how to get knowledge and format knowledge, and it's just liquid everywhere.
I think you mean in well, I mean, I would love to see exactly more, but you mean in the system description,
Yep.
You want to use the liquid, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's mostly just includes for lots of different sources or behaviors that you can share. Like, and in the end, you could even have a library of prompts that you can reuse and to build your own ones. It's hard to figure out which ones right now because it's the early stages. But I assume as you get users try to do something, you will find patterns and you can say, oh, I want to reuse that. So let's make it a reusable prompt. And then you can say, oh, these are all available. And then in their prompt, they can say, inject this one, inject this one, inject this one. And in Liquid, it's an include this prompt, and so I will try to give you some examples. That's cool.